What's up, everybody? Welcome to the State of the Wild, episode 106, a regular YouTube video web series podcast thingy. My name is Meowth, and as usual, I'm joined by my two good friends and co-host, Raffle and Corbett. How are you guys doing tonight?
It's been another crazy week in the world of Hearthstone, but I survived it. Had a little bit of fun along the way, and now I'm here to talk about it with the two of you guys. So sounds good to me. I don't know how you doing, Corb.
I'm doing alright. I never experienced the drama and the blowback and the all the stories and the horror in real time. I always just get to. It's like arriving late to the crash site, you know? Like I did get to see all the tweets and the aftermath, and a lot went down in Hearthstone this week. There was a lot of outrage in certain sectors, but fortunately, I didn't really have to get too involved in any of that. So that's nice.
Yeah. Fortunately, indeed, I feel like watching the crash happen in real time on Twitter is you like watching it in slow-mo, and you're like,
Yeah, see, Corb just gets to see which bit of engagement farming like floats its way to the top. So he only gets the best of the best by the time he wakes up.
Yeah.
Whereas, we're seeing all the trash rage bait posts and not really the cream of the crop. So
Yeah, he gets to see the trashiest trash, right? How lucky
Right.
Corb only gets to see the trashiest trash. And just like we got to see a puppy cameo for everybody watching on YouTube.
Yeah, Anchor was very upset about some of the recent news as well. He kind of wanted to get his thoughts in, but not here for that level of drama today.
All right, so let's hop into it. Let's cover some news, and then we'll talk some wild, because it has been a week and a half. We have seen the meta sort of kind of stabilize at a certain point. But let's start first. There was some announcements regarding Battlegrounds that won't apply to most people that don't really touch the format. But kind of the big one is they are introducing a new currency into the game called Runestones. And so essentially, if you've played other mobile style games, they're very similar to gems or things like that, where you will buy a certain number of gems with real life currency, and then you use the gems to purchase skins or battle passes or cosmetics or things like that in game in the client. And so a lot of uproar, I think a lot of the uproar was not really directed at the Runestones themselves, but more the decisions to monetize Battlegrounds more than anything else. And so we won't dive too deep into that, but I know it is a very hot topic in the community, so I just wanted to bring it up and get you all's thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't play Battlegrounds, so it's easy for me to say, but I feel like a lot of the noise about Battlegrounds is kind of eclipsing the fact that, like, Runestones don't seem that great, or at least very, customer, client, player centric or beneficial to the player, right? This is something that, you've seen in a lot of mobile games in the past where they give you the ability to use real money to convert that into in-game money that can be then used to purchase things that you would otherwise just directly purchase with money. And a lot of times they're like in awkward increments. So like, if the biggest bundle is 6,500 whatever runestones in this case, you could say you can only purchase them in increments of like 70 or something. So you're just left with this 500 extra set of runestones that you can't ever spend. And based on what they announced earlier this week, possibly even today, I don't know, time is a flat circle. It seems that the way that runestones are being implemented are like conscious of that and trying to avoid that. But at the same time, like the lowest amount that you can purchase is 500. And they said that the intention behind introducing runestones is so that they can include lower cost bundles without having to worry about like transaction fees, which is like a legitimate concern, right? You can't, from a business perspective, you can't offer like something for $1.50, $2 if you're losing 50 cents on the transaction fee. I don't know what the actual transaction fees are, but for like credit cards, they are a legitimate concern. And I'm aware of that, but like, then you're just running into a similar problem with the lower end, which is meant to be the main driver of the purpose of Runestones. So if you can only buy 500, the lowest bundle is 150 to 200. Well, you just, once again, you're in that same predicament where you're left with 300 runestones left over that potentially can't go towards anything. So it's a little bit frustrating. It's a little bit confusing. And it, like, I don't know. In the past, I've given the Hearthstone team the benefit of the doubt with this type of thing, but after Mercenaries, it feels like it's a little bit harder to do because like I was here talking about how they're saying it's not going to be as predatory as some of the other mobile games, and then sure enough, it was. So like I'm like it's hard not to be skeptical given the past history as well as the timing with the battlegrounds and having to like actually purchase the two extra heroes to not to not lose out on a competitive advantage, I guess is the way it works out. So like there's less obfuscation with like the currency conversion, which is another concern with some of these mobile games in terms of what Runestones are doing specifically, because it's just like $20 equals what 2,000 Runestones, right? You just drop the zero in terms of if you're converting from USD to Runestones, and that's fine. But like again, the problem with the odd increments as you go down to the lower end still is present. So it's like I don't know. I I personally won't be engaging with the Runestones in any way because like the one good thing is that they are making it still possible to purchase a lot of the major things like pre-order bundles and more specifically the battle pass with just direct cash. So like if you don't want to purchase Runestones for those things, those are the primary things that like you actually need to keep up with Hearthstone as well, or if you want to have a full set at least, as well as like the primary purchases. Like beyond that, you probably don't need to just buy odd packs if you're interacting with those. So like I have no reason to engage with Runestones. I like honestly I would encourage most people not to at all either, because like you end up with that weird in-game currency that's like weird funny money that only works in Hearthstone, and I don't like that. So that's my whole thing on it. Like I don't know, they seem to be doing a good job with some of the like avoiding some of the issues with like the trickery and like weird psychological aspects of it, but then like just at its core, because it's not real money that you can't take out your Runestones and turn it into cash. So like once your money's in, it's locked into Hearthstone, and I don't like that because of the odd increments that you're left with in some cases, and it just feels yucky to me. So
yeah, I mean, this is definitely not consumer friendly necessarily. Like, there's obviously this is trying to make Blizzard more money, and that's understandable. And there are like the benefits kind of that Ruffle outlined. The like being able to purchase the smaller bundles, the smaller heroes. These are like kind of one-off things that they wouldn't usually be able to offer in the shop. And again, there is that minimum kind of buy-in that Ruffle was talking about, but at the same time, if you're buying like multiple of those small ones, then it kind of it does give you something that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to do, because they wouldn't have been able to offer multiple of these small purchases. So you can kind of bridge that a little bit. But I mean, yeah, I think obviously this is a beneficial thing for Blizzard, not for the consumer, but it's probably not as bad, I think, as what a lot of people think. Like, I think it's fine. Like, a lot of the stuff is still going to be, buyable with real currency. I think that, in general, the Hearthstone team has been pretty good for the most part when it comes to doing this kind of thing, in terms of, making it not a complete disaster. I think that generally there's so much skepticism and so much outrage just ready to detonate at a moment's notice, and we saw that really with the Battle Pass previously. And the Battle Pass was fine. Like, when they actually announced it, it wasn't really that bad, and then it got better, but it wasn't that bad to start off with. But people are just kind of ready to sort of go nuts with this stuff when it is potentially dangerous. And I understand the fear of people have of a potentially really bad situation, but I kind of want to give them the benefit until we actually see it play out. Maybe that's a bit naive on my part, though.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, from what we've seen, like, they put out the patch notes for the big BG's patch coming next Tuesday, and they put, like, the pricing for the Runestones already in that blog post. And I think you can buy as small as 500 Runestones for $5. And so I think what's confusing to me is, like, if that's your small thing, you were selling skin bundles for, like, 4 for 20, right? And, like, is that really that much of a benefit for you for like the downside of the community outrage. And obviously, like, I don't know what they have stored. Like you might be able to buy coin skins now or card backs and things like that with rune coins. But I just feel like I from a consumer aspect, like, I understand for Blizzard it makes a lot of sense, but like, I don't understand the supposed advantages that they claim the Runestones have for the consumer. Like, that's the part that I'm really, really missing from like how they've presented things. And I also think that it was kind of, I don't know about you guys, I think it was also just like a major PR fail to announce this huge change in monetization at the same time that they were doing this huge BG's patch, and it's taking so much away from that. Like, combined with like, oh, you now have to use the Runestones to buy the battle pass for the new BG's content, was like, I feel like not the greatest thing. Or maybe it was planned of, oh, let's couple it with some really good stuff in the BG's to maybe offset the downside.
I don't. Yeah, I think that. Well, I think both things were going to be received poorly. Both the Battlegrounds pass, in particular, the fact that you like only get half the heroes if you don't purchase it. You can only get those heroes with real money, and the Runestones were inevitably going to be poorly received because neither one is consumer friendly, like as we mentioned. So it was inevitable, and so you might as well just lump all that bad press in together. I also like had similar confusion about like, do we really need bundles less than $5 if like that's like just lump two of those small bundles together to make one $5 bundle? Like, why do we need, if there isn't a issue with transaction fees for like 500 Runestones, which is $5, like, just make that your minimum buy-in for bundles. And if you wanted to introduce anything lower than that, just make it available for in-game gold or something. I don't know. Like, if you really want to offer that, like, just, you can still offer that, or you can group them together. Like, I do not see the benefit other than to kind of, I don't know, maybe trap people's money into the game of Hearthstone. Yeah, like that's, but yeah, but like Hearthstone had a good year financially. Like, they always have a good year because it's low low operating costs compared to a lot of other games, and high like quantity of content. So like, I don't know, like like you can still make the money without using the in-game fake money is I guess my thing, because again, like, what's the difference between a $5 bundle and a $2.50 bundle? Is that really going to drive sales enough to offset the negative press associated with introducing this type of thing?
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, it also is like Runestones are always going to be based on USD pricing, which really sucks for people in other countries, right? When they're trying to like 5 USD to somebody that's, I don't know an example, but somewhere where the currency is worth a lot less, right? Then you're having to spend $15 or $20 for the 500 Runestones. Like it feels really, really bad in that aspect. And I don't know. It also, I feel like you knew that they were going to monetize BGs eventually with how popular the format is. It just really sucks that it's a like competitive advantage way that they're monetizing the format. I know that there had to be a better way that could have been done. But I don't think we should hop too deep into that, as we are not a BG's podcast. But I think we could all agree that it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe we don't.
Was there a better way for them to monetize it? Like, I don't exactly know what the options are if the cosmetics aren't selling. And I'm not sure. Like, they could have definitely made it probably less of a difference, right? Offered 3 heroes as 4 or something. But I don't know, like, I don't know how you do that if you can't incentivize people to kind of get more access to the game because they aren't buying enough cosmetics. I don't know how you monetize BGs in a way that makes sense. BGs was basically just like a happy accident, right? Like, BGs was probably never expected to be this absolutely insanely most popular mode, and kind of like a lot of what people think of as Hearthstone, and they had nothing set in place as to how to make money off this, and it's a really difficult problem because once you give people that, it feels really shitty to take it away. And I understand why people are pissed, but I just don't know what actually makes sense if you're Blizzard and you need to make money off this, or you want to, I guess.
I mean, that's fair. Something that I have heard is like, if this was the monetization practice from the very beginning, I don't think anybody would have batted an eye at people having to pay for the 4 heroes. But the fact that they gave you 4 heroes purchasable with gold, right? You could buy the perks with gold, and then they took it away from people. I think is a huge deal.
Yeah, it sucks having stuff taken away.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
way.
It always does feel worse to have it taken away, but to your point, I don't think the game mode would have been as popular if they had this
Exactly.
monetization structure early on. So like that's something to consider as well. That like you wouldn't have, it wouldn't be what it is now. You wouldn't have the number of employees working on it that you have now, so you wouldn't have the payroll that you had now, you wouldn't have the operating costs that you have now, so you wouldn't have to monetize it in the way that you do now if it started out that way. I don't know. I feel like there has to be a better way, whether it's again reducing the discrepancy, because you're really getting half of the heroes offered to you, and
Yeah.
like the balance isn't perfect, so you are going to be at a disadvantage if you don't get offered a good hero. I think that there are a couple ways that you could do it. Either just, I don't know, come up with a really appealing battle pass that doesn't include offering more heroes, or one thing that I've seen as a possibility and considered myself was like make the hero jumps or the hero options available on the battle pass, like on the free portion of the battle pass, and then just by paying you get a quicker access to them, so everybody can still get there. It's just so you could even increment it, like you know a quarter of the way you get the third hero, further down you get the fourth hero, and so you everybody can get there. It's just you get there a little bit faster by paying, and that's kind of pretty
Similar like
similar
the
to
constructed battle pass, basically.
exactly, and it's similar to how Hearthstone, has always worked too. That like you can get the cards. It's just you get them a lot faster if you pay money.
That's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Even the idea of just being able to unlock certain heroes or just things like that. Like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. It does suck. Like, it sucks.
Yeah,
I feel bad for the BGs.
yeah. Like I can understand why they did it from a business perspective, but like it doesn't benefit me and I don't like it, so I'm not going to pretend that it does. So like
Yeah.
and that's true of both of those situations. Yeah, I understand the motivation. I understand why it from Blizzard's perspective or the company's perspective it's a good idea, but like their what benefits them is often to my detriment. So like yeah, I'm going to point that out.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like from the Blizzard side, it makes 100% sense why they did everything. It does suck that they did it though. All right. So that was just one of the big news pieces this week. Kind of buried underneath all the other things, and for some reason, I think it was announced in the BG's patch blog post. But on September 14th, the Wild Brawl Elizium will be back. So for those of you guys, this is the heroic Brawl Elizium where you do pay like an entry fee in order to play it, and it's kind of like a mini tournament, a kind of arena style ladder where you will lock in a deck, you will lock in your 30 or 40 cards, and you will play until you have 3 losses, and then you get rewards paid out, kind of like duels or arena, based on the number of wins that you have. But because it's a pretty significant pay-in, it's not free like most tavern brawls. You get pretty significant payouts if you get to the 10, 11, 12 win bracket. But it is wild. I think this is the first time we've had a wild Brawl Elizium in like, I want to say at least 2 years, maybe even more than that.
At least.
Yeah. So excited it's back. I'm going to be jamming a bunch of it on stream because quality content. Just in general, how you guys feeling about the announcement?
I feel like I'll need to get like a Trainwrecks type disclosure going with his gambling streams where do not do this, you will lose. It is horrible EV. It is horrible EV. But we're probably going to have a mini set announcement shortly after around this time. So like don't spend your in-game money on it. But it is great content and I love it. And I generally have a pretty good success rate with the heroic Brawl Eliziums in general because I've been playing Hearthstone for 8 years, 4 of that like professionally. So I have a decent idea of what I'm doing when I actually try to win games of Hearthstone. So I tend to do reasonably well with it, but like most people don't. So my wins come at somebody else's losses, like and the same applies for everybody. Like 3-3 is your expected outcome and your rewards are trash if you go 3-3. So like viewers, listeners at home, don't play the heroic Brawliseum. You can just watch us do it and save your money.
I'm very excited for this. Like, we're not getting Wild Open. We all know this, but this can be the Wild Open. You know what? Like, I'm gonna have fun with this. I already have plans, it's sort of in my head to, you know, be on co-op calls and kind of just shoot the shit with people, while like piloting these things, and it should be a lot of fun. I like that they're actually doing this as a wild event. Interestingly, the balance changes. There's probably gonna be a balance patch like the day before.
I'll say things
or very,
like that.
very close.
Oh no.
There'll be a balance patch probably that week, and so it might make things even more like up in the air, compared to what we're expecting. So yeah, could also be fun for that.
It'll be really fun though, because now with the inclusion of ring coins, I have nothing to spend my in-game currency on, so I can throw it away with the heroic Brawl-Elizium. But I think just to kind of build off of Raffle's point, so if it's structured anything like previous Brawl-Eliziums, it's like 1,000 gold to enter, so it's not like an insignificant entry fee. And then, so normally like the break-even point is like going infinite is 7 wins, but the 7-win payout is not really gold. It's like at least it's like 15 packs, right? But it's gonna be like packs of the set and not like stuff from the mini set just yet. And it's not until I think you're getting 10, 11, or 12 wins that you're actually like making a profit, like making things back on your 10 wins. And so, I mean, if you're confident and you want to play it, like feel free. We're not trying to discourage you from that, but just Raffle is. But I don't know. I'll never disincentivize people playing things for fun, but just know that it's, unless you're very confident in your ability,
You will lose gold.
you will lose gold.
Like,
So
everyone will lose gold.
Right.
Doesn't
I
matter
also
how good
think-
you are. You like if you keep queuing this up, you will lose.
Right. I also think is large portion of people that are queuing it up with real money as well, and that's a little bit different than queuing it up with in-game gold. So like, do not attach a credit card to Hearthstone for this. If you have some spare gold, maybe consider it. Like again, I love these events. I personally have a good time with them. It's like my one time to have a bit of, like Corb said, it's your competitive outlet for like a week, and it feels good. But like, don't drop $10-$20 or whatever the cost of it is for a run. If you have extra gold lying around, I would consider saving it for the mini set still, but like maybe consider doing a run if you have a strong deck that you want to queue up and you're an experienced, competent player.
Yeah.
Look, getting first day before everyone all the noobs, all the standard players, listeners. You got to get that first day while they're all queuing up, because there'll be no one left but kind of the real tryhards by day 2.
That's true too. No?
yeah. All right. So just a reminder that is coming out, I think, starting September 14th, and it'll be around for about 5 or 6 days if you guys are interested in that. All right. So now moving into the wild specific portion of the stream. So it's been about a week and a half since the balance patch, where we had Snowfall Guardian, Big Rogue, and Celestial Alignment was like the third big change that we got, as well as the 20-something buffs. So we talked about all of that last week. But what we're going to do this week is we're going to do kind of a class check-in, check on the health of all of these decks, or all these classes, and some decks that you can be playing in each one of them. And so we're just going to run through it. We'll talk about decks and things that we've been playing. And of course, we're going to be posting a lot of the list of decks that we've played today down in the description. So if you guys want lists and things like that, that's where you can find them. Also, disclaimer, I'm going to sell out Corbett here because he did some hard work and he should go rewarded. He basically did this in Reddit form with some stats to back things up. So if you guys are interested in a kind of written, long form thing of what we're going to be doing today, make sure you guys check out Corb's Reddit post. That'll also be down in the description. Okay, that being said, let's start with a very depressing topic, and that is Demon Hunter. Even with the Magnifying Glaive buff, even with the Bibliomite Glaive buff, even with all of the reverts that they got, the class still looks like trash.
Yeah, Demon Under bad, and it's sad. Because I like some of the new cards. I like playing with relics. They're still bad. I like Magnifying Glaive. It's fun, but it's still bad. You can't get big numbers with your attacks on Magnifying Glaive, but when the opponent's health is 40, it doesn't seem to matter all that much.
I feel like it's still bad. is just the summary of the entire class. Yeah. Unless you're Reno Jackson, apparently, who seems to be posting a new hot Demon Hunter Dustbait deck every other day on Twitter.
Have you noticed he never posts a sample size?
Well,
Have you also noticed that it's literally the same deck with 2 different cards in it?
I also noticed that I queued into it rank 300 the other day, but we don't talk about that, all right? We only talk about the wins.
All right, we love you, Reno. We're just giving you crap because we love you, all right? Also, Raffle, when you started off with Demon Hunter's still bad and it makes me sad, I thought you were going to rhyme for the rest of your discussion about Demon Hunter, and I was really ready for it. Just saying.
Oh, no, I'm not that clever or creative, sorry.
Yeah, you indeed made me sad. All right. Let's talk about Druid. So it feels like Druid has kind of officially migrated over everybody to this Renathal build. Basically, Renathal has given you the reason that you want to play stuff, like play all the other broken, 4 and less cards that have been printed over the past 2 or 3 years. So like Floop and now the new Wild Seeds, even get to include stuff like Brand and Rats and things like that. And so it feels like every Druid deck is running a very similar core. And I will say it's like almost 100% that Cthulhu Druid and Alignment Druid are kind of dead because of the presence of Theotar specifically. And so most of the Druid decks that I've been seeing are Dragon Druid builds, and Reno Druid builds actually have been performing really, really well. And so I'm interested in y'all's takes on these decks. Which one do you think is better? What should Druid players be playing?
They should be playing Renathal and Denathrius. I don't know. They seem pretty similar in terms of what they're able to do. You get redundancy in your non Reno version, which I would lean towards when you're trying to pump a big thick daddy Denathrius. Because you get this double scale, double flipper friends, and that's just kind of disgusting. So that's the only version that I played, and it seems really, really good. I agree that there's no reason to waste time on Cthulhu. I don't really feel like Reno is necessary either, because you just stack a bunch of armor and you have 40 health to begin with, so survivability isn't necessarily an issue. Floop's Gloop and Twig Sphere are both incredibly disgusting, so that's making Druid very strong right now, I think.
Yeah, I played a game last night where it was like turn 6, and my opponent started off with a Floop's Gloop, and they managed to play 29 mana worth of cards on turn 6, and that was pretty good. It's kind of crazy. We were kind of talking about this, I think, Meowth stream the other day, how this card that kind of went its entire standard rotation without seeing any play whatsoever is slowly just becoming one of the absolutely most broken cards in all of Wild. Obviously Mana Cheat and Unlimited Mana Cheat kind of has a lot of potential. We've seen that previously with a card like Blood Bloom. But yeah, it's just interesting how they've moved away from removal spells like Swipe and Wrath, and as they just keep leaning further and further into this token removal theme. Just how broken this card becomes. But yes, as for Druid as a whole, the Reno version and the non-Reno version both look pretty good. In either case, you probably want to be playing Dragons, it seems like. Definitely recommend that. I think the best version right now is probably the Reno version with Dragons. But it's all very close, because, look, you're running it's almost the same deck. So it doesn't really matter what flavor or what twist you want to take on it. You're going to do broken Druid things, and it'll be a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Gloop has been one of those cards that was always broken. It just never had enough support until they printed Scale and then Flipper. And I feel like, because I still remember a year and a half ago doing Gloop into Seeds into Starfall, and then dropping a Ysera, and that being absolutely busted. And now it's even more gross because you have all the tokens things that we've been talking about, and it's kind of insane to me how. I don't know. Druid is just the class of just kind of. I feel weird saying this because it's showing my bias, but it's just scammy cards of you just have these cards that all of a sudden you're doing fair things, and then all of a sudden on turn 4 you have 14 mana and things are no longer so fair, and so it's very much feels like the class that's kind of built off all of these. Now we no longer have to worry about the Oaken summon stuff, but we got everything else to worry about, and it's a little frustrating. But regardless, it doesn't. I don't know if the class is kind of broken, like win rate wise. Like the decks, Dragon Druid and Reno Druid don't seem like they're gross. They just have a couple of gross play patterns built into the class. But what class doesn't at this point in Wild?
I mean, it's just from a play perspective, it feels bad watching your opponent make a 30 mana play, like on turn 6 or 7, right? Like it just, I mean, it's similar to why Big Priest feels bad to play against at times, right? Because they're doing absurd things in terms of mana cheat. It's just Druid's way of doing that is frustrating, but so is Priest's. Like,
No,
I don't.
It's very
I don't
much one of
think
those. Every class has it, right? Like
every successful class has it, and
True.
it's why Druid is successful in the format. It's not like overly successful. It's not overperforming for in terms of other classes. It has two very solid decks that and like a very competent shell that will make it successful probably for a long time in Wild as a result of that. And like the fact that the Oaken Summons package is getting pushed out now is indicative of how strong like the rest of those core pieces have become. And so those cards will be present until they're either nerfed or until they get pushed out by other things. So it's just like Druid's going to be around kind of like at least a middle of the pack class in the format, which is probably about where it is right now. And it's because of those cards.
All right, let's move into Hunter here. So it feels like we still got the same two decks. We got Beast Hunter and to a lesser extent Face Hunter. Both kind of just wild seed decks. Really taking advantage of that shell. Beast Hunter obviously with like the Buzzard and Rhino kind of style, and then Face Hunter doing Face Hunter things. Who needs to draw cards when you can kill opponent? I do wonder if that's fallen off a little bit, Corb. I don't know if you checked in the stats on your baby, like with everybody adopting Renathal now, but is Face Hunter withstanding the test of time?
It actually is. It surprisingly is. The sample size is still like really low. Like people aren't playing very much of it. It was like a 3-day fad. But from what I can see, the win rate's actually still really, really, really good. So borderline tier 1-ish looking. That said, there's not really a ton of people playing it, so that's a bit up in the air. But arguably the most underplayed deck in the format right now is good old standard Face Hunter plus Lost.
Oh gosh. All right, last Hunter deck here though. Quest Hunter. I feel very confident in saying that the deck feels dead. Both the odd and the normal. That is obviously just my experience of playing with and against the deck. I don't know if HS Replay says anything different, but it does feel like Quest Hunter, for now, is kind of in the grave.
It seems fine. Like, it's probably a little bit more playable, I think, than you're giving it credit for. It is also a bit more popular, I think, at like the 10x range kind of thing. Like away from High Legend, people are still playing it quite a bit, and it's okay. Like it's not amazing though. Yeah, not a lot of interest in refining it. Like people just aren't that interested in it. I think.
I mean, yeah, and like it's the same deck it used to be, right? It's draw Furious Howl, win, don't draw Furious Howl, lose. But yeah, it seems like a pretty competent deck. Like it's not a standout deck by any means, but like based on observation, like it can win some games so far. So the disruption may be hurting it, not even necessarily to like steal the Tavish, but to like things like Theatar just make it hard to complete the quest in a timely manner even. So you don't like with quest decks and Theatar, you don't have to steal their quest reward. You can just steal like their progression or their synergy pieces with the quest to make it slower to complete. So because like their deck is centered around one thing, if you can remove some of those one things, you can be pretty disruptive for them. But I think also it's just like 40 health is a lot to chew through. It's the same thing. Like, you that one extra turn means you're gonna die sometimes. So
Yeah, it feels like that's going to be a trend of a lot of decks that we talk about today, where 40 health is a lot of health to chew through. Makes this deck a lot worse than it might have been previously. Okay, maybe Quest Hunter is better than I'm giving credit for, but I just know that I played it, I think, a couple games, and I was like, this deck is unplayable. I don't kill anything. It doesn't do anything. Obviously, small sample size, but yeah. All right, let's move to Mage. I don't know how to feel about Quest Mage. Power level doesn't seem to be high. It seems to actually be getting worse now that everybody's running like this neutral package of Rats, Theo, Lothar, Mutanus. And so like I know the win rate of Quest Mage might not be high, but it does still feel bad to lose to a ton of parrots, right? Like that feeling's never going away. And I also feel like it's a thing that people really enjoy doing. People enjoy taking 12 turns in a row, so I don't think the play rate's going anywhere either.
no, I probably Mage's best deck, but it's not the meta powerhouse that people make it out to be. But it does have play pattern issues. Like you said, I've had a lot of success even with decks that would normally just like fold to it just because of the redundancy in your disruption now. Stealing parrots with Theotar or ratting that, like just getting rid of parrots can just win the game, and that's like, eating them with Mutanus. So you've got like what 4-5 pieces that you can wreck them with, and they're a lot of the other minions in the deck are getting tempoed out. So things like the coin generators are going to get played early. So their hand, like if they have minions in hand, it's either Brand, Multicaster, or Parrot. All of those are really good chomps or really good trades with Theotar. So like you can be really disruptive with Quest Mage, and like you said, kind of just everybody's running that. Everybody that is an aggro, which is beating Quest Mage a lot of times anyway, is running that disruption package. So
Yeah, I mean, Quest Mage is the fastest combo deck that beats the other combo decks, and there's always going to be like that's always going to sound very appealing to a lot of people. Like even if the deck's getting run over by aggro, if you don't want the opponent to do their 30 mana combo like massive Reno Druid turns, just OTK them like on turn 6, and like that's very appealing. So I get it. That said, Quest Mage isn't that popular. I kind of talked about it in the Reddit post that Meowth mentioned at the top. There's like the format's super diverse right now, and I think if Quest Mage was like a bit more popular, I'd be really really pissed about it. But it's really just not that popular. I think it's probably like the most egregious play pattern issue that we have in Wild. Well, maybe Big Priest is an argument for a lot of people, but it's really not something that needs to be addressed anytime soon. And the deck is still good. It beats other combo decks, but it is open to disruption like Ruffle was talking about. Also, can I just say, the mirror for Quest Mage is one of the most miserable mirrors I've ever played in any format. Like, there's nothing that happens in that. You just play as many coins as you can and just pray to God that you draw the coins in the Savara. It's so bad. Ugh.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it feels very much like a Savara simulator, right?
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah. All right. And I know, Corb, you've been also championing this other mage deck as something that might actually be the best mage deck and people should be playing more. I don't know if you still believe it. I do remember last week you were championing this deck, trying to convince me to bring it to THL. Let's talk about Secret Mage.
Yep.
We know that I got a bunch of new cards. I know we talked a couple times about how people played it for like 2 days and then kind of just like discarded it because it wasn't as good as people wanted it to be. It's like the meme of Andy dropping the toy of like, I don't want you anymore. That's what they kind of did to Secret Mage. Corb, are you still a believer in the deck?
It happened again, Meowth. It happened on the day of the expansion launch, and then the patch happened, and like Secret Mage win rate skyrockets. I'm looking at the popularity, and then like 2 days later, it's a freaking sequel. I don't want to play with you anymore. People just ditched it. It did look really good, for that moment. In the early going, I think a lot of people were kind of just playing janky stuff, after the patch and things like that. But yeah, it's kind of dropped off a lot, and I've seen like almost none of it. Like, I've played a little bit of Secret Mage here and there. Usually when I'm really pissed about Pillager Rogue and Quest Mage. But man, it feels rough to play. Like, the deck's fine, but it's just not that enjoyable to me. There are enough games I've played where you just don't draw any secrets, and it's just like, what the actual hell am I doing with my life? So yeah.
Yeah, I could see it, like, not only farming jank, but like, shortly after the buffs, a lot of people were probably on Odd Paladin, probably on even Shaman as well, and like a chatty bartender is just going to obliterate those decks, and it's like, so maybe some of that was feeding into it, but yeah, I don't know. The deck just seems to not be able to get there a lot of times, even whether I'm playing a 30 or 40 health deck. It just seems like it's not the powerhouse that it used to be.
Yeah, I definitely also think Secret Mage is going to be lumped in with Face Hunter and a couple of other decks we might talk about, where it also, when it sees a Renathal on the other side, it is very, very sad because you don't have a ton of damage, right? Because I think a lot of the modern lists aren't even running fireballs anymore, and so you don't have that much reach, and so that 10 health is actually a lot more daunting than it may seem. Yeah, like I said, we're probably gonna be saying that a lot. A little sad Secret Mage actually didn't find too much success here. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was kind of hoping that it'd be. I know, controversial take for a lot of people that are listening, but I kind of was really hoping that it'd be back because I don't know. I feel like the format needs it, but maybe the hero it needs. Even if people don't want it. I was trying to go for that phrase and I forgot how it went. Anyways. Speaking of Paladin, let's talk about Paladin. Odd Paladin / Dude Paladin. I know we talked last week about how Odd Paladin kind of seems like the way to go over the two, because button free dudes equals good. Warhorse Trainer, even after another week of testing, still good, by the way. Believe it or not, that card is still busted, still buffed for whatever reason. Yeah, I mean, okay. The question now I'm going to pose to you guys is, what do we feel about like the long-term outlook for Odd Paladin?
I think it's a good deck. People don't stick on it no matter how good it is, though. It's like, even when it does perform well, it probably follows that same Secret Mage trend where I don't want to play with you anymore. Like, it's been statistically the best deck at various periods in Wild Hearthstone history, and still had an abysmal play rate despite that. So I think that once some of the novelty wears off of Warhorse Trainer, aside from like a handful of Reaver Ryan fanatics, the people will move away from Odd Paladin. I don't even know how strong of a deck it is. When it gets online, it does gross things, but like, I don't know. Paladin as a class seems to be doing reasonably well, so there must be something that's carrying it. And like, Odd Paladin seems like the strongest, most popular Paladin deck right now. But I don't know. It's hard to evaluate because I don't see it already. I've seen like the popularity falling off.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, it's pretty decent. But yeah, like Rob was talking about, people don't want to play Odd Paladin when it's the best deck in the format. People definitely don't want to play Odd Paladin if it's like tier 2 or tier 3. Like, there's gonna be no interest in this deck. It's still like a huge leap forward again from where it was. Like, it was completely dumpstered for a very long time, and so now if you are one of the people that go to the Church of Reaver Ryan, you can still queue this up and it's fine. But for the vast majority of players, they're probably not too interested still.
So what I'm hearing is Warhorse Trainer to +3 attack, and then we're interested.
No, Warhorse Trainer to 3/6 body, I think is the move.
And give minions Divine Shield.
No, I'm thinking I was going to throw in just add some health to the stats that it offers as well.
Just
make it
+2 taunt?
Yeah, let's do +2/+1. Don't be ridiculous. Like, just be reasonable.
Calm down.
Yeah. All right. Let's move into Priest now. Now we're getting to the classes I feel like that have a lot more diversity than we've seen before. So let's start with Priest. Let's start with the abomination of a deck list that is XL Shadow Reno Priest. And I say abomination because there are so many cards in these decks where you look at it and you're like, there's no shot this card has to be like good. Like, there's no way that these cards are good enough. I'm talking about cards like Serena, Bloodfeather, or Nagic something, or like the nameless one.
Furious Glimmerroot.
Yeah, Curious Glimmer's making a comeback. I don't know what's going on. Like, these are cards that we had like agreed were trash as a community for a very long time. Now we throw in a Renathal and a Harvester of Envy, and all of a sudden these cards seem very intriguing to people, and it's crazy because the decks keep on winning. Like, the deck seems strong, and I don't know how it does the winning thing, but it does.
I was playing the deck, and I was sitting there thinking, like, I don't understand how this deck is winning, because I wasn't drawing Shadow Reaper, and that's not how I was killing people. I wasn't getting value off of Harvester of Envy. I still don't think that's a very good card. And, like, people just kept losing to me. And, like, it felt like a lot of it was due to, Corb's prediction of just that neutral disruption package, like, amplified by the fact that you're a priest and you can bounce those cards back to hand, as well as like make copies of your opponent's version of those and just like disrupt them into oblivion, is how I felt like I was winning that without, again, getting value off of the Harvester of Envy. It was just like I disrupt your stuff, and then I copy your disruption to disrupt your stuff more, and then you have no stuff, so I win because card advantage good in card game is really what it felt like to me.
Yeah, the amount of generation that the deck has just means that you kind of just outvalue everything. Things like Thought Steal, Madame Lazul, and the big one, Identity Theft. Man, that card can just do so much, especially like a mirror. If you like get an Identity Theft and you find another Identity Theft, like it's just over. Like, you just never run out of stuff. So yeah, the deck's kind of weird where there are actually so many games, kind of like Ruffle was talking about, where they don't actually come down to, like the Anduin OTK, but you just sort of like pressure people in the mid game and like, play the location on stuff and a buff Dakani, and you just kind of like beat them down and make things awkward. It's a very weird deck. I'm totally with you as well, where I don't actually think like the Harvester and that whole idea is even that good. Like, I don't think that's really what's winning the games here. I just think it's 40 health, good hero power, yellow cards, and that's enough. Like, and a sufficient amount of disruption. And yeah, it's solid.
It's almost like a Reno Hunter 2.0, but with hand advantage, right? Because you're just, like you said, you're just weaving in those hero powers, whittling them away, and then you hit them with the occasional big burst turn. It used to be like a King Crush off of Dino Tamer brand. Now it's maybe an Anduin plus some spells, or like. But again, I never really use that. You just, honestly, like, you just bash them in the face with Loatheb and they die. Like, it's bizarre.
So you're telling me this Reno Priest deck is a mid-range tempo deck with some combo control elements and just trigger everybody listening? Yeah,
it's gonna go over a lot of heads.
It's literally every single deck archetype in one, because you're stealing your opponent's cards. So who knows what you're going to do?
That's true.
Who knows what you're going to get? Who knows what you're going to be?
I think it's also worth mentioning, we've hit a very incredible milestone here for Reno Priest. It is the most popular deck at Legend since the patch.
Let's go.
Like,
it's back. It's back.
Pretty
Officially
amazing.
Back now.
Yeah.
I mean, I will also say, like, just this one conversation, like, there has to be room for the Reno Priest deck to get even better, right? Like, to refine the deck list, especially if things like Harvester aren't good enough, right? Like, I also, like, there's no shot stuff like Serena is good enough, right? Like, it can't be.
The deck's perfect. Perfect 40. It doesn't matter what your cards you're running, because you're just stealing your opponents anyway and using them. So just like, just...
You're intentionally
if that
running
didn't work
bad
for Rogue,
cards.
why does it work for Priest? Come on.
Man, it's intentionally running bad cards so that when you Theatar, they just have nothing good.
It's also intentionally running bad cards for when you queue into the mirror, because it is the most popular deck at High Legend. They can't get good value off of their copy cards. So, GG.
It's true. All right. What a weird deck. Guys, if you guys haven't tried it out, it's a little bit of an expensive craft, but I'm sure there are some replacements for these kind of random legendaries that might not be super core. But I highly recommend trying it out. It is a weird deck, but it is fun to play, and it does do a lot of winning. All right, next up, let's talk about the big bad. And I say big on purpose. Let's talk about Big Priest. So we know people love the deck. We also know that people love to complain about the deck. But my question to you guys is, how good do we think the deck actually is?
It's approaching the point where I think intervention needs to happen. I think, and maybe that's just because today, twice in a row, I got Neptulon on 3. But I don't know. It's just not fun to play against. Is really what it comes down to. I do appreciate that when I do get high rolled, the games end quickly so that I can move on and actually play a game of Hearthstone afterwards. But yeah, it's right there with Quest Mage, where like the play patterns are really gross. If the popularity gets any higher, which means that if the win rate gets any higher, it's probably going to require some sort of intervention, and I don't like it. I just don't like it.
Oh man, I'm looking at something right now. I'm looking at the the win rate for someone plays an Essence on turn 2. The win rate is quite good.
Yeah.
It's 90. Like it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't happen that much, but man, it feels really shitty when it happens. And yeah, do I think like Big Priest is the best deck in the format? No. Do I think it's among the better decks? Like, yeah, of course. And it feels really gross. And it is like we're just talking about, like Raza Priest is kind of like the legend darling right now. Big Priest is the diamond darling. Like it is the most popular deck of diamond. So Priest is definitely like Priest has become just overwhelmingly the most popular class in the format. And it does like change a lot as you move from like diamond to legend. But yeah, for a lot of players, Big Priest is going to be the deck they see most often. They're going to get illuminated. It's going to suck. And, they were explicit about talking about how they were looking at banning Neptulon or Illuminate. I don't think that we're still there because, again, the WoW balancing team, the threshold has to be absurdly high, it feels like. But for a lot of people, I definitely understand why the outrage is there, why people are pissed, why people are complaining about this, because it's not a lot of fun Hearthstone that happens.
All right. I don't want to harp too much on Big Priest because I feel like we could say the same thing over and over again, and I don't think it's going to fall on deaf ears because...
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah.
But I think all of you guys out there, please know that all three of us are with you. We would be okay with some intervention to Big Priest, even if we're not constantly queuing into it, because when you do, it is pretty miserable.
I am. But like I'll still say that it's nowhere near. It's nowhere near at the same like level as Big Rogue, and that's like a common refrain I see in Twitch chat in particular. Is like it's not there. There's a reason Big Rogue got nerfed and Big Priest didn't, because they are nowhere near in the same stratosphere in terms of their consistency, play rate, and like the speed at which they get online. Yes, it feels bad when it happens to Big Priest, but it was happening so much more often in Big Rogue, and that's why they needed to step in. That doesn't mean I don't want them to make a change to Big Priest, but like I understand again why they didn't. I just disagree with it.
Yeah,
but like they are not the same.
It very much feels like a Barnes and Big Priest kind of situation, where like I think eventually it's gonna get hit. It's just like how long do people have to complain about it until it does. All right, let's talk about two more aggressive strategies though for Priest. We've talked about Big Priest and Reno Priest. So I guess I'll talk a little bit about Aggro Shadow Priest. This is a deck that I've been playing a little bit off stream. So actually some pretty decent success. Crooked Cook, I don't know if you guys remember this card that came out, but it's a 2-mana 1/4. When your opponent, like at the end of your turn, if your opponent's lost 3 or more life, you draw a card. And that's kind of a thing that you want to be doing anyways, with stuff like Fellwing in your deck. And it's really easy to do with your pirates and things like that. And so I've really liked Crooked Crook in Aggro Shadow Priest. It also struggles from the 40 health debacle that a lot of aggressive decks seem to be struggling with right now. But if you are queuing into stuff like Big Priest and Quest Mage and Pillager Rogue and decks like that, I do highly recommend taking a look at Aggro Shadow Priest as something that might be a smart choice if that's what you're queuing into.
I would.
Yeah,
but
I haven't really played it very much. I haven't really seen it very much. I will say the stats on it look like respectable. Looks fine. Like the build is pretty clean. Play the pirates. I need to have another look at Crooked, because I know the card's been a little bit disappointing in standard. Considering a lot of the hype, it's become like a bit of a fringe inclusion in the aggro druid. But I do think like Shadow Priest is a very natural home for it, and it might just perform better in wild because patches and things like that. You can get online very, very quick in Wild, where you can play it on curve probably a lot more often.
Yeah, I mean, it performed well for me in that Demon Hunter deck, and I think it's much better in the Priest deck. So I'm a Crooked Cook believer, even if standard players aren't. And then Core, you want to take it away with Blessed Priest or Inner Fire Priest or Divine Spirit Priest or whatever name we're giving it now.
Yeah, I don't know. Have we settled on a name? I'm currently rocking with Steel Priest for the potion version, but that feels wrong because it's like that makes you think of Thief Priest. So I don't know what to do. Can we workshop this? Because saying Minion Bless and Minion Spell or Spell Bless, I don't know. It all feels clunky.
I think Spell Inner Fire is where I would go with it. Just be as
they don't even run the Inner Fire ruffle sometimes. They just run Topsy
over the Inner Fire. Yeah. In the spell.
I mean, kind of like a Reno deck. Inner Fire kind of represents the health buff like mechanic, in my opinion. So I think you can still call it Inner Fire even if it's cut Inner Fire.
We can grandfather in the Dark Lair rule.
Yeah. And that's what we do with Dark Lair. Why can't we do it for Priests? Makes sense.
Exactly. Just
because that never caused any issues calling the hand Warlock like Dark Lair Warlock. I never got harassed in my chat about this or confused or anything like that.
What was your fault for playing the deck? Come on.
Yeah. As for the actual decks, I mean, people aren't playing a ton of it. Not the most popular stuff. The spell-based version does seem to be something that people are trying a little bit more at High Legend. There is kind of this slight issue where you go 0% into Quest Mage. That's kind of bad. Like, 0% is not winning many games, so it's kind of hard for the deck to be too good when you just cop that level of of a bad matchup. People aren't really playing the minion version, even though it's probably better, just because a lot of kind of what I was talking about with the Quest Mage stuff. There's a lot of appeal to people playing the fastest combo decks. You just want to scam them before they quote unquote scam you. And so I definitely get why people are playing the Spell Inner Fire and aren't really bothering with the minion version, but. Yeah, minion version seems alright.
Do we think that Potion of Madness eventually is going to get touched to give Rush, or is it going to take a rotation to the core set for Potion of Madness to get addressed? You think?
But if they change it to core set, it probably wouldn't have any of the issues, so they'd probably just keep it as is.
We thought the same with Earthen Scale.
Yeah. It's true, but I don't know. I doubt it, and I don't think it'll ever become a thing that they want to change anyway. So,
all right, let's move into Rogue here. Another class that has a lot of decks, some diversity. I mean, let's start with Pirate Rogue. If you had asked me last week, I would have told you Pirate Rogue was still the best deck in the format. Now I'm not so sure that it's the best. It's just among the best. But I definitely feel like it's getting hit by the Reno syndrome, plaguing ladder right now. Of it is so much harder for aggro decks to get through 40 than it is 30. And Pirate Rogue is no exception, as good as it is.
Yeah, it's probably a good deck at your Diamond 5 to Legend Band if you're able to feed on the big priests that are prevalent there. It's probably still just the best all-out aggressive or aggro deck if you really want to make that distinction. But it's a very it's a good deck. It just doesn't seem very popular because it's not as successful as it used to be, and it's same right. People again, Odd Paladin, Seeker Mage. We talked about this already. It's the same deck, so people don't stay on it for very long.
I was kind of having some fun trying a Edwin version, basically cutting all the 3-drops, putting in Edwin, and then I was playing Fly Buddha and Howler. Just trying to lower the curve. Howler. I know this is a card that probably some of you don't know. It's a 2-mana 1/1 Rush Pirate that gains +1/+1 for every other pirate that you have. So it works quite well with the Fly Buddha and stuff. The idea is being lower the curve, and yeah. So that was fun. I got to make some 11/11 Edwins in Pirate Rogue, kind of give it a different feel. That was kind of cool. But yeah, Pirate Rogue, good.
Yeah. All right, another good deck, Pillager Rogue. Speaking of fast combo decks, right, that kind of have a 0% matchup into Quest Mage, Pillager Rogue feels just like another one to put up there with all the others.
Yeah, it it's always in the same place that I feel like every time we bring it up, right? It's not very popular. It's overrated at very high legend because like the the metagame there is very specific, so you can more predictably queue into the right matchups. So because it's matchup dependent, if you have a diverse metagame, it's not necessarily the best call. That said, I did see that it's like now possible to do a 3-mana combo with the deck because of like a reversion in the way that Tenwu operates, or some sort of bug in that. But you're not going to hit that draw every game, so I don't think it really matters all that much. I don't know. It always feels to me like Pillager is supposedly on the verge of being the broken deck, but then it gets more support and still doesn't like tip over that edge. So maybe it's never been on the edge, and we just again, it's more of a play pattern issue, kind of like Quest Mage, because we have kind of a similar refrain when it comes to Quest Mage as well within the community. So that's always been my perception of Pillager Rogue, and it's somebody who's in Dumpster Legend queuing against Dumpster Legend players as well as other people climbing to Legend. So maybe I'm not getting the full experience of the Brainiacs at single digit Legend piloting this deck to perfection.
The Brainiacs are good, Ruffle. They are very tilting. They have to be so goddamn smart when they just OTK every time on turn 5. Although there was a hilarious game I saw Meowth play where he ratted a shark on turn 7, and he still didn't die somehow. Which I'm not entirely sure how that happened.
Well, I think your comment though was like maybe the most tilting part about Pillager Rogue, right? Where you like try so freaking hard to disrupt them, and they still kill you on turn 4, and then you like accidentally rat a shark because you're trying to rat one of the other 4 minions in their hand, and then they don't kill you somehow, some way. And it's just like, it's the most I don't care what you do to me, I am trying to play solitaire and kill you kind of deck. Which might be that, like, that's, I think, the tilting part to me about Pillager Rogue.
Yeah, like, the devs have talked a lot about this. I think Alec Dawson, in particular, talked about it. The difference between, like, OTK that is indicated and set up and sort of, like, signals to the opponent, like, hey, here's what's going to happen. And then like the OTK where it just sort of pops off, you don't know exactly when it's going to happen. It definitely feels like the Spell Innerfire Priest and the Pillager kind of have that similarity where they're so difficult to disrupt sometimes, and you just can die. You don't know exactly like what turn it's going to happen because of things like coins or because of palm reading discounts and radiant discounts, and it could just happen at any moment. And yeah, it feels really bad. I think to just like get. The opponent plays 10 cards or something, and they just, like, deal OTK damage in one turn on turn 5. And, yeah, the same issue, but neither deck is really that popular, neither deck is really that good, and don't think they'll be addressed anytime soon. So, if you enjoy those decks, just keep playing them. Keep being a Brainiac.
Yeah, I mean, I did turn 3 to a Pillager once, though, so they absolutely need to nerf this deck immediately. The deck is absolutely insanely busted. Speaking of insanely busted, let's talk about Miracle Rogue. Corb, I know we talked about this a little bit last week, where somebody was trying to hit rank 1 and rank 2 with Miracle Rogue, and you said you were going to stream nothing but the deck all week. Did you follow through?
No, but I streamed a lot of it. All right, so like, I kind of followed through. Man, this deck's fun though. This deck's really fun. I've enjoyed this a lot. I'm kind of still toying around with the build. Like, I'm not actually 100% sure if you do want, like, the Flybooter Prize Plunderer stuff, or whether it's just better to just trade an SI7 Extortion and things like that. But, man, Miracle Rogue is really cool. It does have problems sometimes with the Renathal and, like, the Reno Priest matchup, so that can be a bit tilting. But it's very, very good into, a lot of, like, board-based aggro stuff. Being able to bounce a Lothab 3 times against Quest Mage is a very satisfying experience that I would definitely recommend everyone try at least once. And yeah, I've had a lot of fun with this deck.
You're talking to a shaman player here, Corp. Of course I know the feeling of bouncing a Lothab 3 times in a row against Quest Mage, and God, does it feel good.
How dare you compare this beautiful deck to that abomination of a shaman?
The rogue actually has to work for its 3 Lothabs. It doesn't just like draw thing and play things on curve until
What do you mean work? You just draw Shadow Step and you do the thing. I just draw Macaw and I do the thing. They're the same. I don't understand
No.
the difference. They're the same
No,
picture.
you were gonna play that Macaw anyway because it was a green card in your hand. So like you have to actually think about bouncing the right card with this rogue deck. Come on, they're not.
There is no
comparable.
difference in the pictures. Corporate, come on. All right, let's talk about Kingsbane Rogue. Basically, Silverleaf Poison was the big kind of shout for the reason people wanted to start playing this deck again. Shout outs to Cream Puff, who has hit top 50 legend on all 3 servers with a Renathal, this goddamn card Renathal, Kingsbane Rogue on all 3 servers. And so I don't know if this is a Renathal thing or a Kingsbane Rogue thing, but small sample size of players have been finding success with the deck. How are you guys feeling about it?
Every time I queue into the deck, I'm confused as to how anybody could get top 500 with the deck, let alone top 50. Like, I'm not playing aggressive decks, but I'm racing down these Kingsbane rogues to 40, and it's just like I don't know if they're just getting bad draws or what, but like I don't know. I'm just throwing arena cards at their face, and their heroes exploding while they're their Kingsbane's still at like 5 attack, and they just finally got it back for the second wave of swing. So like I don't know. I'm not a believer by any means. I don't know what the stats say. That maybe I just haven't queued into somebody who gets a good draw or like plays it well, but yeesh.
Yeah, the stats are on it are okay, but I don't believe them either, Ruffle. I tried this deck and I had a 3-attack Kingsbane on turn 7, and I'm like, what the
Okay.
actual hell am I doing?
Right.
It got deleted so fast.
Yeah. Maybe Cream Puff is just a god amongst men then, if he's top 50 on 3 servers with it. Okay, I do want to bring up this one last little deck though, a deck that people continuously forget, maybe for good reason. I do want to talk a little bit about Quest Rogue, and not that I've seen anybody play it, but I kind of just want to bring it up as looking at this kind of greedy meta, this greedy Renathal-esque meta that we're kind of in right now. Reminds me a lot of was it Fortune the Barons post mini set, kind of a really control heavy meta. How do you guys feel about Quest Rogue into all of these greedy decks kind of going around?
So not good. Quest Rogue is first of all probably going to get stomped by Big Priest. So like I don't know that it does well into that. Probably doesn't do well into Quest Mage either, just because of all the freezes. And then on top of that, like the disruption is brutal for it. In particular, I Theotard a Quest reward. Because the thing about Quest Rogue is they're just like they want to complete the quest on turn 4 so that they can play it on turn 5. They can't do the cute things where like they hold minions or anything like that because they just need to rush it down, or they get massively out tempoed or lose their board. So they just have no choice but to leave the quest reward in hand. And with Theotar existing, that's going to cause some real problems because they cannot win a game without that quest reward. So I would be skeptical if it comes back, that because even just like the prevalence of dirty rats, like ripping the flybooters out of hand or whatever it is, even like the token minions that it generates, it's like, well, that's setting me back on my quest. And so no, I'm absolutely not a believer in Quest Rogue.
Yeah, I'm not really a believer either. I actually brought it though this week to THL, but that was because the opponent that I was playing was bringing like Control Warrior and or Odd Warrior. So that's the type of meta game where Quest Rogue can thrive, right? Unfortunately, the most of ladder isn't playing Odd Warrior, and yeah, losing again another great deck that goes probably 0% into Quest Mage. Love to see that. Again, puts a really tough hard cap on the deck's performance. In addition to that, loses to Aggro. That's not good. Loses to Big Priest. Ooh, that's kind of dicey as well. So yeah, not really a believer. I mean, I'm sure it can be fine into probably the Reno Priest maybe, or the Druids that are running around, but I don't know. I don't trust it.
I mean, Priest has always had the best removal of Reno decks into that deck, so like even then,
maybe not. Nah.
All right, so we're not Quest Rogue believers. Maybe for
Sorry,
good
yeah.
reason. I just had to bring it up. Like I said, I haven't played it. I haven't seen it. I just in theory, it's a deck that could make sense, right? Into
Mhm.
a control heavy meta. Because that's what you used to do in Barons. You just bust back out the Quest Rogue and bam, stomp on some kids. All right, let's move into Shaman here. Let's start with the deck that's been revitalized, I think, post patch. The deck that's showing some really, really high win rates. Talking about even Shaman here. I saw Corb get lethaled on turn 4 by an even Shaman from plus 30 health 2 games in a row. And that kind of just solidified it to me that even Shaman is like quite literally the best deck in the format. The deck is just absolutely busted.
Oh yeah,
Kind of
that happened.
disrespectful of you to bring that up, Meowth, but I'll let it pass.
If it makes you feel better, it happened to me today as well, at least once. It wasn't back-to-back games, but like it's happened to me throughout the week, pretty consistently. The deck is just absurd. Like Anchored Totem into Carving Chisel is just the nuts, man. And like the 0 mana spells with the 4 mana Totem Lady, like they get after you in a real big hurry. And it with that Anchored Totem and Totemic Might, whatever one buffs the health, those totems are really hard to remove too. So it's just like if you let a board exist, you might be dying in the near future. So yeah, the deck is like Shaman is doing quite well right now. It's in large part due to even Shaman. We talked about this last week. This is the big winner for the big rogue nerf, right? Like big rogue was just completely stifling this deck, and it was still doing well. Like it was still a good deck in a world where big rogue was incredibly popular and just was like a massive favorite because it gets online even quicker and you don't get a board against big rogue. So yeah, the deck's real good.
All right, I'm gonna bring up a comparison here. This is just hand buff Paladin, like 2.0, where like I think it's that broken. I think that it hasn't quite caught on yet. Like it's not that popular right now, but I can definitely see it having that kind of win rate and having like borderline like not really any bad matchups for the most part. Like I think that Priest in general can pose some very small problems, but the Reno Priest doesn't actually play a ton of early game like mass AoE type thing. So if you don't hit Zephyrus or like if your removal just doesn't quite line up perfectly, you can just definitely get smacked down by turn 4 or turn 5. Like even with the 40 health, it can happen. I think I just think even Shaman is we're talking about a deck that is borderline broken, borderline tier 0. And I think the player base hasn't caught up yet, but they're about to. Like, I think it's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. There's going to be a lot less first-time Legend with Pirate Rogue and a lot more first-time Legend with Even Shaman, because, I think it's hand buff Paladin 2.0.
That's kind of I don't think people understand how drastic of a comparison that is, because hand buff Paladin...
I know.
We talk a lot about, like, Snip Snap Warlock and Darkglare Warlock as some of the strongest decks of all time. Low-key, pre-nerf hand buff Paladin was up there for one of the strongest decks in all of Wild history. And so you're making the comparison that even Shaman you think is maybe one of the best decks in the history of Wild?
I do think there is some room for it to drop off a little bit at high levels of play. Like, the deck does have a pretty simple play pattern and things like that. And, obviously, high-level players are going to be aware of how much they need to be removing each totem and be doing that in the cleanest way possible. But yeah, like, even with that said, like, you can still lose a couple percent, and I would still see it as, like, maybe the best deck in the format. So, like, it's going to be that broken at, like, Diamond through like a Diamond through Legend, and even an Upper Legend, like, I don't think it matters that much. I think it's still probably the best deck. So, it is a hefty comparison. Like, I'm kind of calling the shot here, but, I mean, it just... I'm seeing nothing... I'm seeing no evidence, basically, that tells me that this isn't one of the best decks we've seen for a long time in Wild.
Bold shot. So now, everybody that's listening to the podcast, you have the early scoop. Play the broken deck before other people catch on so that you can beat them to Legend. That is indeed a shot, though. You think one of the...
Is that a hot take? I didn't realize this was a...
I do think it's a very good deck. But you're calling it maybe like... You're calling it hand buff Paladin levels of good, which is a little bit of a hot take, I think. I don't think there's a lot of people that would have said that. Yeah. I don't know. Rob, do you kind of agree with that? What do you say?
I don't know.
have to tell the truth,
I could very well see it, but I'm not without data to back up my point, which I don't have. I'm not willing to make that big of a
No,
of
you
a
have to
leap.
put your foot in one camp or the other. You gotta come on.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit on this fence.
Well, it also, like, we haven't gotten a VS report in what feels like forever, right? So I don't know if we're ever going to be able to get the data to support that, but I mean, I can see it. Like, if it does end up being handbook paladin levels of busted, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if you're calling your shot early, I have mad respect, all right? Mad respect. All right, let's talk about another shaman deck. Let's talk about Shadowwalk Shaman, Control Shaman, Free Shaman. This is a dark glare situation if I don't know what we want to call it at this point, because not every single Control Shaman list is running Snowfall Guardian. Obviously, some of them still are. It still seems really strong with Macaws and Grumbles and Shutterwalks and things like that. It's obviously a lot less lethal without the Snowfall Guardians. But I've been playing a Galakron list that doesn't run the Snowfalls. It's also been like around 70% win rate in Legend, which is pretty good. I think the big thing here is Nathria seems kind of core at this point in the Shaman decks, as well as stuff like Theo, so that you can actually win games. I think the question really just comes down to there's two different types of builds, right? There's like Galakron, no Galakron, or Murlocs, no Murlocs. And I don't know if we have any data to support that, but basically we just bring this up. If you were one of the like 10% of people that enjoyed actually playing Control Shaman or Free Shaman like I was, I know these two hated it, and they hated me for it. There is still hope. The deck is still good. And I think there's actually a lot of room for experimentation where people are, they have the Pirate Rogue syndrome where it's like, oh, Free Shaman it's old news now. I don't want to play it anymore. I don't want to try to experiment with it and refine it. And so it doesn't feel like there's much going on with that, but it does seem like it's still a good deck that people are just kind of ignoring.
It also has the nerf deck syndrome, so a lot of people are going to be moving away from it and like making absurd tweets talking about how Snowfall Guardian sucks now. But I think it's still probably a decent deck. Just it did fall off because it is going to lose some percentage of games due to the lack of Snowfall lethality if you're running that version. Denathrius isn't honestly a terribly reliable win condition when there's as much disruption as there is now. So, like I'm not sold on him being necessary for the deck, or even optimal. I think you can just bash people with Shadowwalks and be fine with it, or just make Galakron boards and be fine with that as well. Like, I don't know, just the deck just wins. Like it just wins. I think it's probably a fine deck still.
I think it's okay. I'm still like very up in the air about the Snowfall, sort of opinion, the stance, because I'm somewhere in between you two, right? Where I think that in Wild, like, it has a lot more room for abuse. Again, we've talked about that with Grumble and Shadowwalker, but man, it's just I just can't get over the fact, like, a card that got cut from 40 card standard Shaman. That does not bode well, and like, I don't know, like, it might be a situation where the card probably performs better, I think, in like a Polk out list, because it's as a standalone card, it might not be as good, but as a setup for like Shadowwalk and Grumbles, it's probably better. So if you're not playing the Polk out, then, without that exact play pattern, it probably drops off a bit. So I'm kind of curious about that, but yeah, not a lot of info right now on Shadowwalk Shaman. Turns out the stats mattered though, like quite a lot, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that, right? We knew that before we even play tested with the card. Where like when it loses the stats, like that was one of the main appeals.
Well, Meowth, we've known, quote unquote, like a lot of things at Hearthstone before they happened, and sometimes we don't know what we know.
I don't know when a card goes from an 11/11 to a 5/5. I feel like we kind of know that's going to make a huge difference, though.
Yeah, but Meowth, we also knew that the alignment nerf wasn't going to do anything to alignment druid. So,
hey, I didn't say. All right. Anyways, all right. Anyways,
I wasn't pointing any fingers. The large
like
portion of the
totally
community made that
fingers.
take. No. That the Snowfall Guardian was at you. This is. There's a lot of people to place blame on with that take.
I still feel I want to move these fingers away though. Let's move them towards Warlock. Let's talk about the million different Warlock decks. Mechathune Warlock with Tome Tampering, seems like the standard thing. I don't know if it's actually better or not, but it does seem to be what everybody is playing. And it seems like Mecha'thun's still okay. It's just one of those. It's still gonna lose to Quest Mage, not because it can't beat Ice Block, but because it gets comboed before you get to do your thing. Is what my sense is for that deck, and so it's not going to be the combo deck that a lot of people really gravitate towards. I do want to talk about a couple of other Warlock decks though that people are just kind of. I'm not seeing a ton of the deck, even if it is good. And so those are Even Warlock, including Theotar, and then Pain Warlock. So the XL Pain Warlock or Handlock with Flesh Giants and Molten Giants and Sea Devil Gavin, and I guess what I think we're kind of calling Control Warlock at this point, because it feels weird to say that, I know, but I also like haven't seen a Reno lock in quite literally years.
That deck controls the opponent's face quite well. I will give you
both.
that.
Both of them do, though. You're not wrong. Yeah. But I just want to ask you guys about Even Warlock and this XL Pain Warlock, and kind of your general thoughts and feelings about their power level and why people might just not be playing them. And I think I probably know the Even Lock answer, but I'm interested in the Pain Lock answer.
I think they're both a little samey to like previous seasons. They're both samey to each other as well. So like you're not, I don't know, you don't have the I don't know, the disparity that you have like between an Even Shaman and a Free Shaman. So like the player that's going to play one of those decks is just going to pick one of those two. So you're basically like splitting the population already, because they're essentially a very similar deck in what they do, and the player that's drawn to that is split in half by the two decks. I think is part of it. They didn't get anything new in either case really, so like that's gonna like decrease its popularity as well. But any deck with Stinger into Jegafin is just going to win a lot of games of Hearthstone, is really what I've learned from playing the Warlock class recently. And like part of the reason why maybe you're not seeing as much Reno Lock is because it only has one copy of Stinger, so it doesn't get that that combo quite as consistently. And it can't run Gorlock, or even with the Gorlock Ravager, which it probably is running. It's still going to be slower to get there than the Pain Lock. So both decks good. Both decks bash opponent face good. So that's what I like about them.
I think in general though, Warlock is sort of having problems with the rise of Priest. Priest becoming the most popular class is definitely bad signs for Warlock in general. So probably with the exception of Mecha'thun, which has other issues. But any Warlock deck that wants 8/8s, doesn't like the removal kit the Priest has. So that's kind of a bummer. Interestingly, the Pain Warlock, we're seeing like a bit of a divergence, where the sort of like giant base deck, Basham in the face of the Battlemaster, like very on board, that we saw before the expansion. That's still around, but there's recently been like a lot more people playing that curse list where you have all this off-board damage. And I think in general, it is a response to Priest, right? Because, like Reno Priest isn't going to be able to deal with that as much because the damage can stack up to a stupid level. Like, all those fatigue ticks, like they get kind of crazy. And especially if you even play Curse of Agony and you get to shuffle in 3 of those little fatigue cards, bam, yellow cards got turned off. So that's something that I've seen a lot as well, and that's also like a nice way to deal with Quest Mage sometimes. So the Curse Warlock deck I'm actually very intrigued by, the idea of kind of going for more off-board damage, and it's something that I've seen from a number of players at High Legend, people doing quite well, and it seems to be something as well that is very popular on the Chinese server. This deck is very well-rounded now that it can potentially be Priest. Obviously, running a whole bunch of curse cards can be kind of dodgy against aggro, but, between the Defile and Soul Rend that is pretty popular, it tends to be pretty okay into that. So one of the more well-rounded decks, and definitely a point of diversion compared to, even Warlock and things like that.
Yeah. I was going to bring up the Curse Warlock kind of separately, but it's interesting. Like, I played it, I was like, it's the same response that I had to the Priest deck. Where I'm like, God, it's running curse cards, it's running Curse of Agony, like there's no way that this deck is good, and then you rattle off like a 19-7 run in top 100 Legend, you're just like, yeah, okay, maybe this deck is real. What's also really interesting is like it kind of solo, like you kind of really get into Quest Mage with the curse stuff because like you get like an early Murloc down on the board or an early Giant, you bash him in the face and then like you just kill him with curses through the ice block and like they don't get to buy the 4 or 5 turns that they usually get to. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I after the Reno Priest kind of debacle of me not believing and being proven wrong, I'm a very early adopter when it comes to the Curse Warlock deck.
Yeah, we were talking about this before we actually started recording, and Meowth was high on it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I played that deck. It was trash." And then I went and checked my stats, and I went 12-5 with an 11 win streak at the end of that, and that was complete news to me. But like, I even edited the video this morning, like, and I still had no memory of doing that well with it. Like, that's outrageous. And the deck just wins. It uses the curses when it needs to, which, like you said, is priest, and in particular for me, it was quest mage. But then for the most part, it just like jams molten giants and then shoves a Jigafin at the opponent's face and wins that way. So yeah, deck seems okay, good. We both had good runs with it, and that was news to me.
And this isn't like something completely out of the blue because, again, like always, wild steals from standard. In standard, they're actually kind of running this whole curse package in Implock. And it's kind of a similar idea, right? Where the Imp Warlock mightn't be able to beat the infinite freezes and AoE of a spooky mage. But with the curse package, they kind of get this big over the top damage that eventually adds up, and you know, like you don't need to purely play for board. So it doesn't necessarily make the deck better in wild or standard, but it makes it a lot less polarized. Like you become like a lot more. You probably lose an edge in the matchups where you were good, but you make up a lot of ground in the matchups where you were bad. You know, things like that priest that we were talking about. So if you want to play like a very well-rounded deck in general, I think this is something that, you know, a lot of players are going to adopt because, you know, people like the feeling of having a chance in every possible matchup. Like, I think that's very satisfying and a big part of why a lot of people liked Free Shaman in particular. And this might be something that a lot of those players end up moving towards.
Yeah, true that, true that. I also, what is relevant though, and I think I might mess around with the list a little bit, but it does feel like when you were cutting stuff like the broomsticks and the flesh giants and things like that, specifically the matchup into even shaman felt a lot harder than I wanted it to, given that it is a deck that I think is increasing in popularity every day. And so maybe there is like a middle ground where we don't have to go all out on the curses. Like the list that I was running was running Dark Vein and things like that.
Soul Rend time, yeah. That AoE we all forgot about.
Double Soul Rend, double Defile, and then C double Gigafin seems pretty strong. Maybe we just like completely adopt that and shift the list a little bit. And so I think that'll be the list that I'll drop in the description. We'll drop a double Soul Rend list to help you guys get ahead of the curve. I know you guys are all going to be playing Even Shaman now because we told you to. So we'll make you a little bit better into all the Even Shamans that'll be running around on ladder.
I like that. We break the meta, and then 15 minutes later, we sprinkle in the counter for the real diehards that make it to the end of the episode.
This is your reward for listening all the way to the end. All right. No, the real reward for listening all the way to the end is to hear me cope about Enrage Warrior and how this is a real deck that's so close, except it has a 0% matchup into Quest Mage. Which is really sad. But going the tempo and Rage Warrior route, kind of stealing a list from Corb and adapting it a little bit further, it feels so good to play when it works. It's just that it doesn't do the thing as consistently as I want it to, which is like the issue. But I just need like 2 more risky skippers, and the deck is absolutely insane.
Yeah, the deck is fun. I think a lot of people want it to be good, but it's probably not. Like if it were good, the warrior class would be more popular and more successful in the format than it is, and it's just not. It's not doing very well. You know, there's been periods where people have success, people have good runs with the decks, because, like you said, when you're running hot, like the deck feels almost unbeatable, but you don't have those runs while. Throughout, and The imbued axe helps because it does the buff to it does help you play that more tempo oriented game plan. But if you lose the board, the game just kind of ends, and uh, it's really hard for the deck to recover. So I think that's kind of its big weakness right now.
Yeah, I think it's like surprisingly effective. I think that it's really not quite good enough because I think like when it loses, it feels really bad, right? When it wins, it feels great. But some of these kind of decks that are very onboard based and they don't beat Quest Mage, and you keep removing their minions, and none of their cards work because your Rampage or your Shield of Honor doesn't work, and your Bloodsworn Mercenary does nothing, or your Battle Rage is drawing one card. Like when things go badly, it feels horrific. But I think the deck's still pretty good. Like, I think there's still, like, a huge upside to just playing Crab Rider and bashing people like crazy. And so if you want to play Warrior, I think this is a playable option. Like, I can see this being, like, a tier 3 deck, right? That's not, like, a completely horrific place. Pretty bad, but it's not Demon Hunter, so, that's good.
Tier 3 is better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think it's okay. And, again, they're probably going to give this heavy support soon, either via another round of buffs or in the mini set, so keep an eye out for that. But I can say this, and I think that I think this is a deck, right, where if they push this to remotely being playable in standard, this would be very, very good in Wild, because we already have like this massive backlog of synergy and things like that. It's the same kind of thing with even Shaman, right? So I think Wild is very much primed to have this as one of the better aggressive decks in the format at some point, which is kind of exciting because I think it's a more interesting aggro deck than something like Mechs or Murlocs that are much more tribal based. I think this would be very, very cool to have as one of the better aggro decks.
Yeah. Also, a little bit of Twitter leaks. Aleko, who's kind of on the lead of the design team, had floated out the idea of, somebody asked him about Battle Rage and like what the possibilities like of getting that to the core set or like adding it to standard kind of midway through the year to help support the archetype. And it was like, yeah, definitely not going to happen this year, but it's definitely something that we've talked about that might happen in the future. Of like 6 months into the year, you kind of just get some like shifts in and out of the core set depending on what they want to buff, which is kind of irrelevant for the conversation about Enraged Warrior, but also it was brought up in terms of standard Enraged Warrior, so I just wanted to bring that up.
I think that would be great, like if they decide to go that route, right? Because a year is a long time. And like a lot of what you plan doesn't always land, right? Like there's probably a lot of cards that they thought would work with a certain version of like From the Depths, and you never quite know what you're going to nerf and things like that. And so giving themselves a bit more flexibility heading into each expansion and things, I think it would be a generally good move to, rather than feeling like they have to be completely 100% locked in for an entire year. Like make a couple card changes here and there.
Yeah, it also probably means they don't have to like overbuff to Oblivion in order to try to make an archetype relevant.
So Warhorse not going to +2/+2?
Yeah, or? I guess not. They'll just bring Quartermaster back to the core set instead.
I'd be down, bring back Mustard.
But yeah, it's just something that was brought up in terms of Rage Warrior, so I wanted to bring that up. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed a little bit of a class check-in. Maybe you didn't if you're a Warrior or Demon Hunter fan, and those were just depressing hour and a half that you just listened to, and I apologize for that, but hope you guys enjoyed the check-in in the meta. Again, if you want any of the deck list that we talked about today, most of them will be posted down in the description, or you can just like leave me a comment asking for a specific deck code if I forgot one, and I'll drop you a code down in the comments. But Raffle and Corb, thanks for joining me tonight. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for talking wild. Let the people know where they can find you guys and your content.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch and YouTube at Raffle, and Twitter and Instagram at RaffleHS.
And you can find me on Twitch at Corbett, and Corbett Games on Twitter and YouTube.
You guys can find me at Get Me Out on all the platforms. Appreciate all of you guys that listen all the way to the end. You guys are awesome. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys again next week. Later.